Hi everybody, this is Jennifer and welcome to my channel where I talk about books, music, movies, and anything else that takes my fancy. Today is day 4 of the 12 days of Litmas, and we are talking about our favorite novels. Mine here is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen with the weird YA cover. I much prefer the other covers with the older paintings on there. I don't know who they're by. Anyway, but I had my former copy had pages coming out, so I had to buy a new one, and this is the one that I came across first, so I bought it while I was on vacation in Myrtle Beach. So I first picked up Pride and Prejudice when I was 20. I hadn't read very many classics. I'd read The Scarlet Letter from Nathaniel Hawthorne, which I liked, and I read little bits of Wuthering Heights, which I did not like, but Pride and Prejudice I read after school, unlike those other ones, and I was 20 and I had a temp job, and back when A&E was still putting out arts and entertainment, they were showing the Pride and Prejudice miniseries by the BBC featuring Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely, and I was like, I need to read that book. So I read it, yay, and I loved it. And I've reread it every year on the regular ever since. So, what Pride and Prejudice is about is really, there's this family with 5 daughters living in Longbourn, and a gentleman takes a house in the neighborhood by the name of Mr. Bingley, and he brings his friend Mr. Darcy, who's twice as rich as he is and not nearly as personable, and they move into an adjoining house in the neighborhood or whatever. And so Mr. Darcy proceeds to pretty much offend everybody in the neighborhood. And in particular, he refuses to dance with Miss Elizabeth Bennet here, and says she's not pretty enough to stand up with, which is a shame. And he offends everybody in the neighborhood, Elizabeth especially, and then he proceeds to fall in love with her. And it really goes on from there. Eventually, they find their way together after a lot of missteps, and it's a really nice romance, which is a big part of why I like it so much. Up until I started reading, up until I read Pride and Prejudice, I really hadn't read any real classics. I read mostly genre fiction series and romance, and this is my first real favorite classic novel. And a lot of it has to do with the romance. It also has to do with the Jane Austen's sense of humor. Okay, so I picked a little thing out to showcase the sense of humor. But sense of humor is relative. You know, sense of humor then is not the same as sense of humor now. You guys should all know that. Okay, so they're talking about this ball that's going to be happening at Netherfield, which is where Mr. Bingley is staying in the neighborhood. He's like, well, no, he doesn't say this. His sister Caroline says this. "I should like balls infinitely better," she replied, "if they were carried on in a different manner. But there is something insufferably tedious at the usual process of such a meeting. It would surely be much more rational if conversation instead of dancing made the order of the day." And Mr. Bingley replies, "Much more rational, my dear Caroline, I dare say, but it would not be near so much like a ball." So basically here, Caroline's trying to kiss up to Mr. Darcy by saying what he thinks she thinks he wants to hear, by poo-pooing the idea of a ball, and then Mr. Bingley's like, "Yeah, what you described is nothing like a ball whatsoever." So yeah, that's a part of it. Elizabeth's dad is also, he's very sarcastic, and he's very He's just not having any of the social niceties that is the bread and butter of his wife and what his daughters need to make good marriages, which is their only real path in life if they're going to have a comfortable life. So yeah, those are the two main sources of humor in here. But I thought it was really funny around the whole thing. Jane Austen, you know, makes fun of a lot of social mores. I went to say mores here, but I'm not even sure I know what mores mean. Anyway. Do you ever do that? You say words, you get an idea what a word means by listening to it being used, but you've never actually looked it up in a dictionary, and then suddenly you're using it and you're wondering, did I use this word the way it's meant to be used? That happens to me sometimes. And it happened to me just then, and I'm not cutting this part out, so yeah. So another thing I really love about this book is the personal growth that the two main characters, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth, go through. In smaller bursts, not everybody else has personal growth. You'll if you've read this, you know what I'm talking about. But the two main characters, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet, their personal growth is another part of the book that's really nice. Because they start out, well, Mr. Darcy starts out a right snob. And he learns to be not quite so snobbish. Though, I'll be honest, I doubt very much he totally ends up not being a snob, but whatever. Anyway. Yeah, and Elizabeth learns that she can get past first impressions, which, by the way, was the original title of this book, First Impressions. Anyway. Most everybody should know that. Anyway. So, that is my favorite novel, Pride and Prejudice. And I'm sorry for the rambly nature of this video. I've tried to make this video like 6 times, and this is the one you're getting because I'm not making it again. No. So, in closing, if you have a favorite novel, please put it in the comments, or if you have discussion topics you want to make about this book, you can also please put them in the comments. Also, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. You guys have a great day. Have a Merry Litmas. Bye.